National Center for Cryo-EM Access and Training, Krios Leginon tutorial. On the Leginon PC, right-click and open Terminal. Type in Beta Leginon or NCCAT Leginon for NCCAT users. Create a new session, click Next. Go to your project, click Next. For the name, we're going to leave it as so. The holder that we will use today is dependent on the Krios that you use. Next, for the description, put the Krios and its number, dash, the description of your project. Next, under Image Directory, make sure that the beginning says GPFS if you're on EMG, or BEGFS for NCCAT. Next, connect to clients, click Edit. In the drop-down menu, we're going to select the Titan for your selected Krios. Select OK. Next, our C2 size will be 70 microns. Click Finish. Select Application, Run. Click Show All, and select the application for this Krios. Scope PC will be the Titan, and the main will be Leginon. Select Run. Let's go to Presets Manager. Import presets from selected session. Our TEM is the Krios, our digital camera is the Falcon 4 EC. Find. Select the most recent session. Go through the presets and make sure that they're satisfactory, then Control-A to select all, import, and done. In Presets Manager, we have all of our presets: grid, square, hole, FAN, FCN, and ENN. In the left panel, we have all of our nodes for Leginon. The green camera icon nodes are the images that will be stored in your directory: grid, square, hole, and exposure. Nodes with the target on them are lower mag images where you will target to take higher mag images. The purple camera nodes are the nodes that are programmed to find eucentric Z height and eucentric focus. This is the node to align the ZLP. This node monitors buffer cycle and this node monitors our N2 filling. We perform Leginon corrections in this node, and we calculate ICE-T thickness in this node. In navigation, we're able to move through different magnifications and take images using stage position and image shift. Let's start by sending grid to scope. Next, acquire under stage position. Using the cursor tool, we can select the location that we would like the stage to move to. Now let's go up in magnification and send square to scope. Acquire stage position. Now let's find eucentric height by going to the Z focus node. And let's simulate a target. Switch to correlation view and select the peak. Make sure that the peak is in the corner of the image. Once done with simulated target, let's go to grid targeting, go to settings. Let's change the label of our grid. You can also change the radius. Our max radius is 9 millimeters. Click calculate atlas and play. In square targeting, all of our grid images will be stitched together to form our atlas. You can zoom in and out using the drop-down menu. Let's zoom into half mag. You can play with contrast and brightness. You can also use the scroll bars to move throughout the grid. Locate a broken square. Under Reference, select the cursor tool to add targets. Then select your broken square. Then press play. Go to Align ZLP, go into Settings. We're going to use stage position to move the reference target. The mover will be Presets Manager, and Bypass Conditioner is not clicked. Select OK. Now let's go to Square Targeting node. We're going to select our acquisition targets at this time. You can toggle to show numbers to help you count your acquisition targets. Place your targets throughout the grid. Press play when you're finished. Now let's go into hole targeting. Go into Settings, make sure it says Allow User Verification of Selected Targets, queue up targets. Let's skip Automated Hole Finder for now. Apply, OK. Control-Shift-Right-Click to remove the targets. Select the acquisition cursor and place your own targets. Next, select the focus cursor and place your focus target. Let's submit these targets by pressing play. For our next hole, let's go to Settings. Let's toggle off the Skip Automated Hole Finder, apply, OK. I don't want to image on this whole mag image, so we're just going to press play with no targets on here. To remove the auto targets, let's Control-Shift-right click. In the left-hand panel, let's click on Template, click back onto the original image, select the ruler tool, and measure the diameter across a hole. Let's remember our D value. Go into Template Settings. Change your final template diameter to the value. The original template diameter does not change. You can use cross or phase correlation. We're going to use cross correlation. Click Test. We want to see bright white peaks in the center of those holes, so let's go up in the final template diameter, test, and there we go. Now let's go to threshold settings. A is set to 2, so let's test. We see the bright white peaks are thresholded for. Select OK. Next, let's go to blob settings. With the current settings, let's test. The max blob is 1, so only one blob shows up. OK. Next, let's go to lattice settings. With the current parameters, let's select test. Our one blob has turned into a lattice point now. Select OK. Now let's go to acquisition settings. Here you can optimize your acquisition targets using ice thickness thresholds. You can get ice thickness information by hovering over your lattice point. Let's test targeting. If your acquisition targets aren't satisfactory, you can delete them and put new coordinates. Let's close settings and use our ruler tool to measure from the lattice point to our desired location for our acquisition target. Remember the distance and angle. Go back into settings, delete your relative targets, autofill. The number of targets we'll put is 4. Our radius, we're going to change it to their D value, and the angle, we're going to change it to the A value. Let's move this out of the way and test targeting. Okay, perfect. Okay. Submit targets. Repeat for each square that we selected in square targeting. We don't want to image that thick ice, so let's go back into acquisition settings. Select Apply Ice Thickness Threshold on Template. Now let's submit the targets. Once you've submit all your squares, now you can go ahead and submit the queue. Now we can go into Z-Focus node. We want to be sure that Leginon is finding eucentric height. Once this is complete, now we can go into exposure targeting. Our whole image will appear here. Let's zoom out so we can see the entire image. Let's do Control-Shift-right click to remove the auto targets. Grab the ruler tool. Let's measure the diameter of a hole. Remember your D values. Go into template settings. Let's test the current settings. Bright white peaks are visible, so let's keep these settings. Okay. Now let's go to threshold settings. Test. The threshold shows the bright white peaks. Okay. Blob settings. Test. Increasing the border size removes the blobs from the outer edges. If you want all blobs to be included, then make your border size 0. Now select OK. Go to lattice settings. Test the current parameters. All blobs have turned into lattice points. Press OK. Click on the ruler tool and measure between lattice point to lattice point. Go to lattice settings. In spacing, change this value to the distance you measured. Press OK. Hover over each lattice point to see the mean intensity, mean thickness, standard deviation intensity, and standard deviation thickness. We'll make note of the intensities for each lattice point. Using the ruler tool, let's measure from one lattice point to the center of 4 holes. Now let's go to acquisition settings. Let's delete the current focus targets. Select autofill. Change the radius to your measured value. Repeat for the angle offset. Test targeting, and click OK. Now let's remove the targets by Control-Shift-right click, and let's just manually place some acquisition targets. Don't forget to place your focus target. Once satisfied, submit targets. As we can see, the scope is currently doing a nitrogen filling and a buffer cycle. Let's go to the focus node. Here, Leginon will find eucentric focus before taking exposures. That's done. Now let's go into the exposure node. Here we will see all of our exposure images from the acquisition targets we placed in exposure targeting. Once all our targets are imaged, we can go into exposure targeting for the next whole image. Let's go into settings and take off allow for user verification of selected targets. OK, and submit targets. Now Leginon will automatically image acquisition targets based off of our auto-targeting settings. Back in exposure node, make sure that your settings are optimal by observing your images. If the images are unsatisfactory, you can always go back into exposure targeting and put allow user verification back on and edit your settings here. To end your queue, go to whole and abort queue. Select yes, go into exposure node. Let's abort this as well. It'll take its last image and then it'll stop. Now let's go to application, kill, file, exit. Close your command. Now log out of the Leginon PC. And now you can successfully run a Krios Leginon session. Thanks for watching.